Take off your bra if you like.
Get comfortable. Take off your shoes.
What episode is this now?
47.
The cavemen. Back in the day.
Cavemen. How did cavemen seduce women back in the day? Because you got to think about it, right? This whole concept of I really struggle to pronounce this word. Chivalry.
Chivalry. Yeah.
Well, when I concentrate really hard on it, I struggle to say chivalry.
Some people just have those words they can't fucking pronounce, you know.
There's this thing that's kind of, it's something we've adopted over the last, I don't know how long chivalry's been around for. I mean, at least the 11th.
That's going to be a meme. You're going chivalry.
But that's way before the, what do they call it? Neolithic period, before agricultural. I'm talking when we were
basic of basics.
Yeah, 150,000, 200,000 years ago.
Didn't even have words, you know.
Yeah, when it came to mating, it was just you got pounced, and that was it. You got pounced, and there was no chivalry. There was no.
No, but imagine them like the cavemen at the dinner table.
You're not going to see Frank Butcher with his little spinning bow tie.
The caveman chest hair in a bow tie. That's how they impress their women. They get their little chest hair into a bow tie.
But get out of my cave. Do you think, right, there were cavemen that masturbated to their own drawings? Like archaeologists, they
but was it the cavemen that drew them?
Well, who else did them?
The ancient aliens?
Ancient aliens. That's a can of worms in itself. I mean,
that is a can of worms.
I went down quite the rabbit hole this week studying the simulation theory, among other things. And
yeah, but before you start, like the simulation theory encompasses a lot of things, not just one basic.
It was first
linear theory, you know. It's like fucking branching.
So Nick, a man by the name, I think he might be Swedish, he's definitely Scandinavian, named Nick Bostrom.
I've heard of him, yeah.
So he did a paper for Oxford University or something like that. And it was talking about the simulation theory, that we could well be living in a simulation. I mean, this concept's been around for a while. Like even in literature, like science fiction works, Philip K. Dick, he's your go-to guy when it comes to the simulation theory. The fact that the world we live in might not be real in the way we think it is. And I've taken loads of notes on it, so we're gonna break it down bit by bit. But if you want to go through the talk about the history of love, I also did studying on that as well. How did we go from the cavemen that just pounced on their female counterparts in order to spread their...
We went from the cavemen to fucking lighting Yankee candles and like putting petals on beds.
Yeah, they're sprinkling them down the foyer into the bathroom.
Foyer? Who has a foyer? No one watching this podcast has a fucking foyer in the house. Fuck's sake.
I was just thinking about that film, Along Came Polly. Right? I have a deep appreciation for the film, the Ben Stiller film, Along Came Polly.
He had a good run. He had a few good hits.
There's a scene like the concept of the movie is that this insurance guy gets married, and it's all happening in the opening credits. He's getting married. It's the love of his life. They go on their honeymoon. There's this French guy played by Hank Azaria, the guy that does all the voices for The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. He's a good actor. He plays this French guy. He pulls it off.
He's underrated as shit, he is, isn't he?
He pulls it off really well.
Underrated, he is.
So they go off to go scuba diving on their honeymoon. Mm-hmm. And Ruben Pfeffer, that's the name of the character that Ben Stiller plays. He's like a real uptight insurance guy. Never takes any real risks.
Is Along Came Polly the one where they go to a curry restaurant?
Yeah, and he's sweating profusely.
He
has IBS. So at the beginning of this movie, his wife goes off with the Hank Azaria character, the French guy, to go scuba diving. He's an instructor, and he's like, I got to take care of some errands and all that. He's not feeling scuba diving. Goes back to the boat. He's got the champagne, the glasses, and he sees his wife's getting fucked by this French scuba diver, and he's like, Ruben, it is not what it looks like. They still got their flippers on. Yeah. And Philip Seymour Hoffman's in this film as well. There's a scene where they're doing basketball.
I was about to ask you that. What does he say before he shoots? He says something.
Rain dance, white chocolate.
Make it rain, and it just breaks. It goes boing.
Every time he goes to do a basketball move, he just misses, and he goes, white chocolate. Yeah. Make it rain.
Make it rain. It just goes dunk.
Yeah.
I love that shit, man.
He ends up meeting a quirky kind of hippie girl played by Jennifer Aniston, who he ends up falling for, even though she's the complete opposite of what he's used to.
See, when Jennifer Aniston's in a film and she's playing a love interest to like Vince Vaughn or something, you're like, this isn't fucking realistic. There's no fucking way. The RoboCop. It looks like fucking RoboCop.
RoboCop receding hairline.
Vince Vaughn's got the RoboCop, bro. No, there's no way Jennifer Aniston's fucking him. There's no fucking way.
All right, so I was learning the history of love, right?
So anyway, simulation theory.
No, because right, the reason why I thought I'd tie in the whole history of love is because it kind of ties in perfectly to the whole simulation theory. Because there's a lot of questions that come with the simulation theory, like, how do you define consciousness? How do you define a soul? Because that's all going to tie into all these sorts of things. Because you can be hit. I'm going to be saying a bunch of things, and you're going to be hitting me with loads of questions. Oh, sound man.
But that was the plan anyway, because I knew this was going to happen. So, because I'm obviously, the thing you do well is like you say things, you bring up the knowledge, and then bam, my brain will be triggered, and I'll start fucking remembering shit I've learned over the years, you know. So it's good. It's a good balance, and I like it. So, and I like asking questions as well, because you're a smart guy, and you can near enough pretty much answer it.
If I don't know something, I'll just be honest, and be like, I don't know. But
well, exactly, yeah.
So it's learning about the history of love, because it goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. Right? Here's a little bit of interesting. I might have already told you this, but this is interesting. A little bit of trivia for people who are interested. So going all the way back to the ancient Greeks, they, in their mythology, they theorized that human beings at one point had been basically perfect. They associated gods with like perfectly symmetrical like circles.
Is that because of the sun?
Maybe it may go back to that. And so these human beings, they had two faces, two sets of eyes, two sets of arms, you name it. And because they turned their noses up to the gods, they wanted to punish the human beings. So Zeus cut human beings in half. So that's why that's where the expression "the other half" comes from Greek mythology. We spend the rest of our lives wandering, trying to find our other half, because Zeus cut human beings in half.
I tend to vibe with ancient Egyptian mythology more than the ancient Greece.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's all interesting stuff, because, I mean, you know, it wasn't just like you had Plato as well. Plato plays massively into the simulation theory as well, and introduced that. But when we're talking about love, you look at Aristotle, and he talks about mirrors. He says that people around us can be like mirrors, because we're stuck in our own heads, we can't really see all of our characteristics. We just kind of, you know, when you can't see outside of yourself, unless you meditate or take some fucking good drugs, have an out-of-body experience, but we're kind of trapped in the same shell all the time. And Aristotle talks about mirrors. We can see ourselves in other people, and that's how we grow. Because if you're someone that's just constantly within your own solitude, you're just lonely, you're not going to grow from that. You have to be around people to kind of see yourself in those other people, those characteristics.
I'd argue you can. I feel like mentally anyway, I feel like I grew a lot more in the past 4 years. I've been kind of friendless, really. Then I learned a lot more about people. I wouldn't say I learned educationally wise, but more about people. Like, you know what I mean?
There's so many different philosophers.
The power of editing, my friend. Philosophy.
Keep it. No, philosophers.
Philosophical.
No. Ends in
Philosopher.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Plural. I can't.
What's wrong with you today?
Philosophers.
Not the power of editing. This is staying.
Philosophers.
You're taking the piss now, surely.
I'm not. I'm red-faced with embarrassment.
Philosopher.
Philosophers.
Oh, God.
So anyway.
Say it slowly.
Philosophers.
No, surely not.
I can't. I've been writing these words down all week. I can't even fucking say the word.
Alright, philosopher, go.
Yeah. As you were talking about with... I'm sweating.
I'm so embarrassed, Sean.
I'm so embarrassed. I'm ashamed of myself. All this knowledge, and I can't even articulate it.
Alright, sorry, go.
We go back to a... I'm scared to say the word now. We go back to this sort of Renaissance period. There's a man named Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He talks about l'amour de soi, love of oneself, which is exactly what we're talking about. He was a philosopher.
You said it. You fucking said it.
No.
You did.
He talks about l'amour de soi, love of oneself.
Who's this guy's name again? Sorry, I was not composed.
Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
Right.
And this is like the Platonism.
How far back is this?
18th century, 19th century.
It's the 19th century. Is that the 1800s?
Yeah.
Right.
So he's kind of
get confused.
like the 20th century.
We're in the 21st now.
Yeah, exactly. He expanded on it. It's like you can love someone for their character, but you could also love someone for their mind, their soul, what their moral standing is in life.
I reckon that's just natural love, though. Like emotional love, like loving a female or male, or whatever you take.
Loving a thing, because Plato talks about it. Says like you can have love for an environment, for a hobby, for a thing. You know, it brings us closest to our divine selves. That's what all these people were talking about. You look at Nietzsche. Nietzsche kind of expands on Rousseau's talkings when he talks about.
Is it Nietzsche or niche?
I don't know. Don't fucking get me started.
I don't fucking know.
I just say Nietzsche.
I just went on a tangent about Entourage. Watch Entourage.
Because he's German, isn't he? I think so.
Nice. That's actually nice, mate.
But he talks about, he talks about love of oneself as well. He elaborates on Rousseau's teachings. He says, but when it comes to self-love, it's not in the sense of narcissistic behaviors. It's not of self-indulgence, but like genuine appreciation for who you are, because that will earn respect, like nobility, and that will attract people around you to be like, oh, I like this person's character, so that brings people closer to you, because you're talking about your time in solitude. Like, yeah, it's going to have, you do need people. We need that connectedness in order to grow. Otherwise we just stagnate and just, we shy away from the world. But there's pros and cons in both of it. It's good to be in your own company. It's, the balance. It's good to be in your own company, to be able to reflect and not have distractions around you, so you can get on with your projects, so you can get on with your building on yourself. Because there's people I know of who will constantly be in company of other people. They cannot stand the thought of being sat down doing
that's
nothing.
what I was doing before, and taking a step back for that time made me realise, you know what I mean? Maybe I was alone for a bit too long, but it made me start to realise a lot more things, and about myself as well, actually, like who I am more, and what I enjoy more, and what I want to do in my life and shit,
having that time to yourself is good. Again, it is balance, to reflect on things and understand who you really are. Because there was another philosopher. I can't say that. Why can't I say the word today? Philosopher.
Can you actually say the word? I'm not speaking to the word.
I can say the word, just for some reason today, it's just gone. Philosophers. I can't. I swear I've been like hypnotized. Someone's just hypnotized me. It's like, you will not be able to say this word, and it's really thrown me off.
So every time you need to say philosopher, just point at me, and I'll say philosopher.
Philosopher. Yes.
There you go.
I got it back.
Fuck it out.
Philosopher.
Just remember the pho.
Pho.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm sitting here teaching how I say philosopher.
Philosopher. Right, philosopher. So there was a philosopher by the name of Spinoza. Spinoza. Can't remember his full name, but he was Dutch. And he talks about passive love and active love. So passive love is almost like what you see, like codependencies. It can be very toxic in relationships, where an individual is dependent on the other person in order to feel a sense of wholeness. Whereas active love is where, because don't forget, this is like the Renaissance, post-Renaissance period, where existentialism and
Are these theories on love?
Or
how love's evolved over time?
Yeah, I mean, these are the teachings over the years, over the decades. Like, I kind of skipped past like the Roman era and what's called the troubadours, which were the French people.
That, they'll be like the cavemen, fucking Romans.
No,
Doink.
Right. I'm writing a short story collection, which I'm aiming to publish at the end of this week. And one of the short stories is based on a first date. So I thought, I'm going to learn about love. And I made notes on it. But over the weeks, it's just sort of stayed in my head rent-free. Mm-hmm. Going back to these Romans, there was two in particular. There was Lucretius and Ovid. So they were both kind of... Lucretius in particular was quite wary of love. He saw that it could change people. We talk about... You look at it from a biochemical perspective, you know, the oxytocin and the vasopressin, all these chemicals in your brain that kind of change you temporarily. Like anybody can relate to it that's been in love or has felt that initial lust with another human being, where those first few weeks, the honeymoon period they call it, your whole behavior changes. You get this high sense of motivation to do good, and we wear this facade where we want to present our best selves, our idealistic version of ourselves, and then 6 weeks into it, you know, you're leaving your clothes around, the girl is yelling at you.
Yeah, taking shit in the pillow and that, yeah, man. Classic relationship goals.
When the partner's like, yeah, I'm up for anything. Oh, Zelda, I fucking love Zelda. They don't really love, they're just a poser.
Yeah, man, I won't name any names, but I remember seeing this chick and like, obviously I'm a die-hard Metal Gear Solid fan. It's not like my favourite.
Oh, my bad. Carry on.
Sorry. Yeah, I was a die-hard Metal Gear Solid fan, and she was like, I love Metal Gear Solid, and she started trying to explain some of the bits in the game to me. She was like, oh yeah, fucking, I can't really remember the bullshit. You can't really remember bullshit, do you? Like,
No.
It was just like, oh, fucking Snake had a skirt in the elevator, and I was, in my head, I was just like, still gotta fuck you.
You're gone. Yeah, you still got, you still. So Lucretius was quite wary of the whole idea of love. He was just like, it's quite frightening what it can do to people. It can change people. It make them crazy. But that joins onto those later philosophers. I have to like really be careful with that word now. I'm gonna get ripped by my dad now. He'll ring me up and he'll be like,
You deserve it.
And there was another one who came about 50 years later named Ovid. And Ovid accepted the teachings of Lucretius, but he said his attitude was, I'm paraphrasing, was just get fucking stuck in. It's a high. It's a rush. It's like these feelings you get. Yeah, love can be dangerous, but just go for it. Like meet different people. Learn about yourself. Learn about other people. Going back to Aristotle, people are mirrors. We learn about ourselves and we grow and we develop as we interact with all these different people. When we present our vulnerable sides to certain partners in life, we learn more about who we are by articulating a lot of things that we keep within ourselves, hidden from a lot of people. And then when you finally begin to build that trust with a partner and you start to open up the door a little bit and show some vulnerability, you learn so much about yourself. And they learn a lot about you.
That's why therapists make so much fucking money.
I know.
Because they're like spreading the sessions out over time to dig and dig and dig.
And then moving forward a little bit, we go to the 11th to the 13th century and we start seeing what's called, there were French poets who were quite high esteemed poets called the troubadours. The troubadours were essentially just a bunch of mad shaggers.
Good indie band as well.
Are they? Are they actually an indie band?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've only heard one song called Gimme Love, but I don't know if they exist.
Oh, that ties in perfectly because they were French poets that often spoke.
That's probably why the song's called that. Honestly, I listened to them years ago. I don't know if they're still a band now, but they were on Scuzz and stuff and like a new band thing. And that's one of their songs called Gimme Love. So that's pretty mad actually.
Yeah.
Cool.
And this is playing into the simulation theory about how everything comes full circle one way or another, no matter what direction you go in. But yeah, so they worship women. They talk about the same way the Tao speaks of what's called the eternal feminine, this spirit or this essence of sort that is so powerful. These troubadours were enamored by women and they wrote poems about women. And so I just breezing over that little segment of the book. But I was more into the Renaissance period. You know, Proust, Rousseau, Spinoza, Ficino. You know, I like the way it kind of has a psychological aspect to it. Even Freud had his own take on it as well, but I breezed through that one as well. And
fucking Sigmund
Freud.
Big old Sigmund.
Sigmund, yeah, like cokehead he was. But the point I'm making is what I found so interesting was that as I was reading through these, as I was taking notes on these different people throughout history, especially the more recent ones, I'm starting to connect the dots. I'm like, I could pinpoint moments in my own life where I demonstrated those characteristics, whether it be that the ones that Lucretius was wary of, the crazy behaviors of, but it goes back to, and I apologize if I'm rambling, but when it goes back to Spinoza's teaching of passive and active love, if you haven't got your shit together and you think that this person's the one who's going to be the solution to all your problems, that's passive love. And it can be very toxic going down the line because you haven't got your shit together. And if you have those moments of solitude in your life, and you manage to be the best version of yourself and be like, okay, you acknowledge your characters. You're like, this is what makes me happy. This is what makes me sad. These are the problems that I have. If you can acknowledge that and address those, and then you go into a relationship, that's active love, because you're not dependent on that other individual to give you happiness. You lift each other up rather than depending on one another and bringing each other down, because that's a toxic relationship. That's passive love. So that pretty much covers what I'm saying. And then we'll have these flaws, and again, it's all about acknowledging them and knowing who we are and working together as a team to work around them. But yeah, I think I pretty much breezed over the whole love thing. But the reason why I brought it up was because if we're talking about the simulation talk, the simulation theory, we kind of have to ask ourselves the question, like, what is love? Is it this mystical thing that this
now you've said that, you could say the same thing about every other emotion.
Well, yeah, and then you could argue it from a neuroscience perspective. It's just these chemical precursors that lead to one thing. Like I said, I mentioned about oxytocin. You know, this inherent need to reproduce. It's like we kind of trick ourselves, we hypnotize ourselves, because it's a biological necessity in order to perpetuate our species. Is that what it really? When you break it down, is that what love is?
I think that's what reproduction is. I don't think that's what love is.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Because like you think about unconditional love, like the unconditional love you have for Leia, your dog. You know, that's real love, isn't it? That's not. But going back to Aristotle's again, it's like that Philia or Ficino talks about. It goes beyond intimacy. It goes beyond sex. The need to reproduce. It's loyalty, respect of one's character, respect of someone's qualities and where they stand.
It's hard to tell though, man. It's hard to say, because if you've never experienced true love, how would you ever know? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to. It's easy to read what love is supposed to be, but actually feeling that feeling, like, if you've never felt it, how do you know? Yeah,
and there are people I know of who have experienced such disappointment in relationships, such heartbreak,
and then gone back to it.
Well, even not even go back to it. Some people I actually know who completely stay away from it because they see nothing, the pros and cons of it. There's so much cons for them in terms of heartbreak, and they just stay away from it. Again, going back to that Lucretius, it's like, it's dangerous. Stay away from it. It changes people because it's like a drug in itself. But anyway, I'll wrap it up by just saying I brought that up because when you think about, what is love? Is it something outside of this reality, something that cannot be measured, something that cannot be quantified? Because it goes into the simulation theory, which I was going to bring up. I mean, I've been studying this book. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was tying it back to like video games. And you look at the evolution of video games since the 1970s, the first home video game. So the first commercial video game was Pong in 1972 by Atari. MIT had like video games that they had, but so this book was talking about text adventures.
Yeah.
Hold
on, then was obviously the book text adventures come before the computer text.
Yeah, so you have books coming. I mean, the books still exist to this day. Read long RPGs or whatever they call them.
Mate, they're still very popular. That, like, I remember my mum got me one a couple of years ago. It was a zombie one, and I was so into it. Like, trying to read through it and different escapes strategies and shit. For those who
don't know what like these text adventures or adventure read-alongs are, you'll get this book and you'll have like a little inventory, like a little map maybe with you, and rather than be like a regular book where you just turn the pages linearly, is that even a word?
Linear.
In a linear fashion. These types of books will say da 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 da, and then you have to make a choice. So you change over, you turn over to page 55 or you turn over to page 73 depending on the choice that you make. That's how these books work.
Like, as a story, sorry to interrupt, they're not engrossing to read like them, but as a choice thing in your brain, it's so like you want to carry on reading to get to the next choice. You want to make that choice. You're not reading like oh, Stephen went around the corner and you decide. You know what I mean? You're not reading it like, oh my god, it's such good, well written. You're just reading it because it's your own personal.
I bet there's someone out there, like today, or maybe in recent years, who was actually a really good writer, but they couldn't catch a break, so they just took the job of being adventure read-along guy.
I mean, that's what a lot of people doing now with children's books. You see all these celebrities making children's books because it's just easy to write, and children are going to read them no matter how well written it is.
True.
You know what I mean? Their dad reads it to them; they're just going to enjoy it no matter what. And your celebrity's name's whacked on it, and like, oh, Mad Lucas has written a children's book. It must be hilarious for my 1-year-old.
I went on my mum's TV, right?
You are?
I went on my mum's TV. It's a smart TV, so it's got all the Spotify and all that on it. And I click on it, and it's got all the podcasts that she's been listening to. Fucking Gemma Collins. I was like, mine better.
Izzy.
Yeah.
Izzy. We've got 2 cameras now.
Gemma Collins podcast.
What's it about?
Gemma Collins.
Just talking about herself?
Yeah, about the time she fell over on the ice rink and
time she
dancing on ice.
Time she quit I'm a Celebrity.
That time she cried gravy. And then she was crying. And obviously all her mascara was coming off. And I remember, I didn't even watch it that season, but I just remember seeing the meme on Facebook.
She swallowed it shut.
When Gemma Collins...
That's really nice.
Gemma Collins, when she cries gravy. So her podcast was up there on Spotify. Ours wasn't, which I was disappointed by. My mother prefers Gemma Collins over my rambling. So there you go.
My mum doesn't even fucking watch it, bro. So
you put a clip up of something that we did 2 weeks ago, and she's like, "I can't wait."
Yeah, I can't wait for this. Yeah, mum, you can't wait for it. Bloody watch it then. We'll see it. It's up already.
So these text adventure video games on computers back in the 70s. It would come up as on black and white. You are in the forest. There are 2 paths, left or right, and then you'd literally just type "go left." Mm-hmm. That's the first text adventure games. And as we get into like the 8-bit era, 16-bit era in the 80s, you get to the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Mega Drive. You actually have a screen to look at. You can actually see what's going on and getting some map. And so this guy is explaining the evolution of all this. And then we get to the 1990s with the 64-bit systems. And then we get to now with the virtual reality headsets, which I got given for my 30th birthday. And it freaks me out. Like, I'll put on the VR goggles and I know it's not reality. It's pretty obvious. They're still in their early days because you're having to render 3-dimensional objects there and then, which is a whole completely different ballpark compared to what you see on your TV screen playing your Xbox One. Mm-hmm. It's just because you're in it. Well, he was explaining how our eyes perceive 3 dimensions, and it was so weird. Like, in order to mimic 3D, one object has to be closer than the other to give the illusion of depth, and it tricks our eyes. And it's the same thing with virtual reality, because that's what it is. You're in a 3D environment, and now we're only in the early days of it now in 2022, but there will come a point where it'll become indistinguishable from our current reality. And that's what the book talks about. He calls it the simulation point, or what Ray Kurzweil refers to as the intelligence explosion. Because you look at in the last 150 years, how far we've come with technology. I think it was called electromechanical. It was basically a bit of card, and it would punch holes in it, 1 or 0. And that's basically how code works. 1 is open, 1 is closed, and that creates a sequence of code. And that was the first computers, electromechanical. You just fed these cards through. And then it progressed onto vacuum tubes. And then we get to where we're at now in the 1970s. We have integrated circuits. You pull back your remote control or your phone, there's going to be an integrated circuit board on it. And then we're starting to hit a glass ceiling on what we can do, or how much we can do with integrated circuits. And now we're going to go to the next level. And it's like, Ray Kurzweil, in his book that came out 15 years ago, he theorizes it could well be 3D molecular computing, or photons, or whatever it is. And that's going to take us to that next level. That's going to take us to the simulation point, or that's going to take us towards the intelligence explosion, where we hit what's called the 5th epoch of evolution, which is when machines become indistinguishable from people. And
what epoch are we on now then? Because that's dangerously close.
We're on the 4th epoch. We have machines, but they're not sentient.
Yeah, but there's a lot of machines out there. They do the job of humans. It's got that uncanny valley vibe to it still, though, where you can still tell.
Yeah, it's getting there, isn't it? Because there was that robot doing the rounds. I think her name was Sophia.
Creepy as fuck, man.
She'd be on TV. She goes, I don't even know
Suck my dick, Pierce.
Yeah, in Japan and that, in Korea, you've got these robots.
I shouldn't say that, but
No, but there are machines out there that are designed to be fucked.
They are. There
In
are.
Korea, South Korea, in Japan.
Cars. You seen that documentary with the guy?
Self-drive cars.
People fuck cars.
Yeah,
You
that
seen
guy
that?
that was kissing it.
Yeah.
That
No,
goes
and
back.
he fucks the hose pipe. The
Well,
hose pipe.
that just goes back to love, isn't it? Aristotle's philia.
Hose pipe. You need a quite small dick to fit your dick in a hose pipe. I meant to say the engine pipe at the back.
The exhaust pipe.
The exhaust pipe. That's it. Yeah.
That's all right. You fucked up on that, and I fucked up on philosophy.
Oh, yeah.
There were probably people back in the day that fucked the tree bark. You know what I mean?
How do you fuck a tree bark?
Like the tree that branches out, and you just kind of.
It'll be a tree bark is very specific. It's like just a tree bark. Do you mean like a? You seen that tree that looks like a fucking vagina?
Yeah.
You mean like one of them things?
Yeah.
That was probably someone's girlfriend back in the day. Honest to God, mate. Like, oh my God, what's like an old name? Gertrude. Oh my Gertrude, look at that tree has an amazing vagina. A shame the lips look a bit like a punched pizza. Oh my.
And the woman's like, oh, it's one of those rubber trees. No, it's not. Because you know when you cut those rubber trees in South America, like that white residue comes off of it.
That's not rubber tree.
That's not rubber
That's
tree.
semen.
That's a semen tree. So anyway, the simulation point.
Anyway, simulation, yeah. Carry on, Daniel.
Nick Bostrom comes up with this thing as well that I found really interesting. He talks about...
Who's Nick Bostrom?
Nick
Because
Bostrom.
his name's ringing a bell.
I mentioned it earlier. He was a guy back in 2003 that came up with the whole simulation theory in the first place. He did like a detailed paper on it for Oxford University, I think it was. And people went crazy for it because it's only really in the last 20 years or so since we've sort of...
Does his theory still hold up, or is it been like changed over the years, like to suit?
Not necessarily, because it's timeless. It's a timeless theory. And one of the things I found interesting is ancestor simulations.
Right.
So his idea of ancestor simulation is that there are civilizations out there that are so advanced that they've built their own levels of technology that are incomprehensible, and they've created the reality that we live in today. Because there was another thing I didn't mention on the last podcast when we were talking about space, was a thing known as the Kardashev scale. So Kardashev scale came from this Russian guy back in the 60s. He talks about the different levels of civilizations. So there's type 1, type 2, type 3 civilizations. We are 0.75 on the scale. So a type 1 civilization is defined as one that can manipulate all its natural resources to perpetuate itself. So using the sun, using water, wind, you name it, not fossil fuels, but like all the natural resources available to us. And we could probably get to a type 1 within the next 100, 150 years, according to this scale. A type 2 civilization is next level. We're talking Dyson Sphere, a machine that can
harness the energy of the sun.
Harness the energy of the sun. You can. It's possible in theory. Oh, Dr. Mishikaku.
He's the one. He's genius, mate.
I don't think he's Chinese.
Sorry,
he's Asian.
Forgive me for getting your nationality wrong, but yeah, he's amazing, man. He talks about all this stuff, and like some of it is theory here and there, but Dyson Sphere, he was talking about it fucking years ago. Like,
I used to remember the diameter of the sun, something like 4. I want to say it was 4.3. I can't remember, something million kilometers. I might be wrong. I was going to say 4.3 million kilometers in diameter, but it could be anything up to 200 million kilometers in diameter. I don't know. It's
a big boy. It's a big boy. It's a big old boy.
Because I made a joke about it when people saying, "Oh, the sun's trying to come through." It's like the sun's big ball of hydrogen.
The big boy's here, mate.
It's not trying to do anything. It's just cloudy. You can't.
It's there.
No, I was just saying, like, so that would be a type 2. It could harness the power of its own of its host star.
So what the fuck's a type 3 then?
So type 3 plays into
type 3 is the universe.
Type 3 is galactic. Like they have
Star
colonized.
Wars shit.
Yeah, they've colonized their whole galaxy, and they may potentially be ones who could have the technology or the means to have these ancestor simulations. So we could be trapped.
They'd surely just have the technology to stay like under the radar without ever fucking.
Yeah, but why would they need to? Like, it goes into the whole matrix. Like, maybe we're being used for their power. They're using our power.
Because if we knew something was fucking light years ahead of us in technology, it would blow our tiny little fucking minds, and we'd be like, well, we're here for no reason then. Like, there's something that already exists. That's what scientists and that would think automatically. Like, well, what the fuck are we doing? If they're up there and we're fucking billions of years behind them, what's the point? What's the fucking point? Why don't they just come down and kill us all now? or helpers.
Maybe we're just part of some sort of experiment, and they're watching us. We're like in this big menagerie.
That's it, man. This could all be a fucking their simulation,
Yeah.
and they're watching it.
But think about it. Why do we build simulations? Because we do it too. We're a little bit behind. So we're building these simulations for what, entertainment? Could we potentially be like, these type 3 aliens plugging into us to experience this reality?
This is why, like, Big Brother, it seems silly, but it's like a test, isn't it? It starts off all fun and like everyone's making friends, and then gradually it grinds you down, and you're doing all these fucking tasks.
But you think about dreams.
And that's what a game is. It starts off fun, and then you start getting better at it. Harder things start coming at you, and then it becomes a task.
Here's one for you then, right? So at the beginning of this book, it introduces a bit of Eastern spiritualism, the idea of karma. So karma being that when we go into the next incarnation of our lives, we have this sort of arbitrary task list. And there might be things that when we die, we think, oh no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. So we go back into our next incarnation and do it all over again, with making sure that we tick off that list. And you can compare that to a video game with extra lives. That's what the book was saying.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
That's the idea of
karma. But then
it's
got to take a certain level of faith and belief to believe you're going to get that reincarnation. Like, you know what I mean? You've got to be on your deathbed fucking believing in... Because I am a huge proprietor of karma, right? And I just think it's basic common sense to... Good things happen and good things are going to come to you. Sometimes maybe it's not the case, but generally, rule of thumb, that's what happens. If you're a dickhead, shit things happen to you. I firmly believe you do good things happen. And
yeah, because
we've been doing good things for a year, and good things are happening to us, and I feel like we deserve it,
Interconnectedness is like, sometimes we'll meet people that are a lot closer to home than we realise.
Like, crazy how small this world is.
Or that we're in a simulation.
Or we're in a simulation, yeah, literally.
Because when you think about it, there's this joke that people make sometimes, where you go on holiday, whether you go to Spain or you go to America or you go to some place, and you start to see people who resemble people that you know back home.
Like a doppelganger.
Yeah. And I think to myself, it's almost like the simulation has ran out of assets.
Or do you get the one where, like, someone you know will be like, oh, I thought I seen you on the bus yesterday, and you like weren't even on the bus? No. No?
I've had that before. So, I thought I saw someone. I was like, weren't me.
Like, people say, oh, I said hi to you, and you just ignore me, and I was like, oh, that wasn't me.
It's only through other people's perceptions that I realise how ignorant I must look when I'm on my own. Because when I'm on my own, I'm just in my own space. I've got my headphones plugged in. I'm listening to music.
That's the headphones thing. If you've got your headphones in, your brain's concentrating on the music, so like your face is just blank.
It's like I was waving to you.
Because like when you're listening to music, you're not looking at yourself, are you? So you don't know how you look. But honestly, your face is just... That's how your face is when you're listening to music. You're just in the vibe, the moment, innit? Like,
yeah.
Maybe that's a simulation as well. Like, it's controlling your thoughts and imaginations.
I mean, that whole section about love, saying what is love, with the simulation tool, you can ask the question, what is consciousness? Because, there was this book I was going to bring up to you by a man named Richard Morgan. In 2002, he published a book called Altered Carbon. It got made into a Netflix series in 2018, which the first season's really good. I recommend it.
Some people say the second's good as well.
My girlfriend liked it. I didn't like it too much because, well, I'll get into they changed the main character, but they can, because of the main plot device of it. They can have what's called, I think it's called uplinking. Like I said, this guy was way ahead of his time, because this was 2002 that this book came out, and he was already demonstrating scenarios like the cloud that we have today, where it doesn't just save on your device, it can save on the internet in the cloud and on some server. That's what you called uplinking or telelinking or something like that. So these rich people, their consciousness is like backed up every 48 hours. So if they get killed there and then, they can just uplink it to 48 hours ago. Like if they get RD'd, if their stack gets destroyed,
so they can relive.
They can relive again, because it's all saved on the uplink, whatever it's called. It gets put into their next clone. Boom, good to go. And these people are called messes because they live for hundreds and hundreds of years. But I think one of the messages of the novel is that they kind of lose a bit of their soul along the way, because they become reckless. They become, like they don't really know what their purpose is. They've been alive for 800, 900 years. I don't want to give away too much of the plot, but it's very interesting. And the reason why I bring that up is like we're trying to define consciousness. I was thinking in that particular story, consciousness is stored in a stack.
How far in the future is it set?
I can't remember the top of my head, but we're talking hundreds of years from now, because we've colonized other planets.
Makes sense.
By
That
this
actually, it's quite an accurate representation of the future, of what it could be.
Well, I said this to you at dawn is right. If we assume that we're going to know everything at some point when it comes to every single how to map the brain and how to map DNA, which we've kind of done already, but like understand.
Do you mean like instantly?
We're just being able
like
to
say you think of something and then bang, you already know the answer without even.
Well, the thing is, like for example, what makes this microphone? There are a bunch of people that know every single component of this microphone, and they can replicate it and build others because they have the knowledge of what does what.
That's just engineering, though, isn't it?
Engineering, but there'll come a point where our understanding of biology and chemistry and biochemistry and neuroscience, where we'll be able to define every single component, how it works and why it works, to the point where, because what do you think when you think about what is consciousness? Is it an accumulation of all our senses put together to kind of paint this picture, or is it something more than that? And even if it is something more than just our five, people say five senses and they say there's more because there's balance, there's other things as well, but let's just say for argument's sake, five senses, yeah. Beyond those five senses, there's consciousness. But even that in itself is shrouded in mystery, and we can kind of speculate on what that is. But what if there comes a point enough in the future where we can define it and break it down every component and say we can replicate consciousness now? All that mysticism is now gone. It's like when a magician reveals to you how they do their magic trick, the mysticism's gone, and now you're just seeing a cause and effect. This, X and causality, X and Y. What is the relationship? In order for Y to happen, X has to happen.
I think you're asking questions no one knows the fucking answer to yet, mate.
Yeah.
And I think consciousness is like what you believe it to be.
What is that essence of life? And can you just put that back in that person?
I think that's the question fucking scientists have been asking for years, isn't it? What is life?
But when it goes beyond consciousness as well. Let's just say,
and it can break the smartest man that question.
Yeah, well, it's like when physicists try to understand like quantum mechanics.
Because imagine a physicist from 50 years ago that would be alive now. There probably still is quite some old physicists going about, but shit today would blow their fucking minds.
Well, remember I told you about those postcards that were drawn up in 1899?
Yeah.
Where they thought what the year 2000 would look like. And obviously this is before planes had been around, but they had the dirigibles or the
blimps.
The blimps, the floats, the air carriers. That was the mode of transport for the air back then. So they theorized that the year 2000 would consist of firemen, firefighters wearing like these wings that would help them fly up to put out the fires. They've theorized about, I know it's probably just for fun, but it's interesting to look at.
It depends what country the postcard was.
France. I think it was French. So for anyone that's curious, just type in on Google 1899 2000 predictions, and it should come up with them on Google Images. And they also saw these air carriers being part of like the firefighters, like everything was air carriers. There was a picture of children in a classroom with these helmets on their heads being fed into a machine where the teacher was shredding books. So the idea was that information was going to be downloaded from those physical copies of books into their brains. But it's funny because even though it's the year 2000, it still has a Victorian, Georgian sort of, well, it'd be Victorian, a Victorian aesthetic to it. Wooden floors and the way they dressed.
You ever seen that video of the Chinese kid? I don't know if he's Chinese, but he's Asian, and he's like looking at the book, and then he's like scooping it up and put it in. Like, he's trying to scoop all the knowledge. Yeah. Bless him, man.
But they weren't too far from the truth. Like they probably didn't have the capacity to to picture how that would actually practically work. Like, no, we're not shredding books, physical copies of books, and putting it into children's heads. However, there is going to come a point in our lifetime where we're going to see people downloading information into their heads through the Neuralink that Elon Musk is going on about. My dad told me a story about a woman who'd been blind for all of her life. She went through some sort of procedure where she could see again, and she said the thing that shocked her the most was
Oh my god, reverse it, this fucking world's fucked.
She was most surprised by the size of people's noses.
Really?
Yeah, because I was feeling people's noses like, oh wow. Imagine that though, not being able to see your whole life and then you're just given sight. What kind of overload would that be? What would that be like to see colours for the first time?
That's got to be a feeling, innit?
It's just an interesting concept. It's so out there. I thought it has to be. Like, you think about the moon, for example. You know, the moon is perfect for this Earth because without the moon, days on this planet would be 6 hours long, and there'd be no consistency in the seasons. That's the responsibility of the moon, not just the tides, but a lot of things. And it's so convenient.
Do you reckon the moon controls our moods as well? Because we're made of water.
I've been thinking about that. I mean, there's a lot of people that look at it. I try and find consistency.
It affects the tide. It's got to affect the water in our body and our moods and whatever.
Well, I try and find consistency in it. I always think to myself, like, how am I feeling today, and what's the moon doing? I would say that was my little expression. What's the moon doing? You know, yesterday was a full moon.
Yeah, well, like, have you ever been in a shitty mood and looked at the moon like, oh, you fucking crescent bastard, you fucking motherfucker?
I don't know. I can't really find any consistency in it, but I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, of course, it must be responsible. Some of it has so much influence over everything else. I like the David Icke theory, how it's like a satellite designed to kind of create this.
I like the one when you're a kid. It's cheese.
I thought I actually have a memory of me being 3 years of age, looking up at the moon and thinking it was a big prawn cracker.
You had prawn crackers when you were 3?
Yeah, I used to go to a Chinese restaurant all the time. I went to Studful Chinese, and there was a guy that ran it named Nick. He's a Chinese guy.
Oh, he sounds Chinese.
I know.
Hi, I'm Nick. Konnichiwa.
It's not even Chinese.
What is it? Japanese?
Yeah.
Fuck. I don't know languages, man. I don't learn any of them.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Moshi moshi, please. So this guy Nick.
So anyway, Nick.
So Nick, like, I was terrible. I fucking hated this man.
Why?
I wasn't, because every time I go in there,
Does it give you prawn crackers at the age of 3?
I'll go in there, but I'm going to put you in the oven. I'm going to put it in the oven. And I'll be like, ooh, and my mum would be chuckling away. This woman who was my protector, my guardian, was laughing along with this, and I was so confused at 3 years of age. You know, I mean, I wasn't a bright kid. I thought the moon was a prawn cracker, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, no one knows the moon's fucking what the moon consists of at the age of 3. You know? Oh, it's just got that fucking
You know what I thought
helium-3.
You know what I thought rain came from? I thought people went up in balloons and filled them up with buckets of water.
Oh, it's better than mine.
What did you think?
I just think fucking God was pissing on us.
Yeah, God's pissing. God's having a shower.
Yeah, God's having a piss. Jesus flushing the chain.
You ever see those like footage of where hailstones get really bad in certain countries?
Yeah, they're like fucking bowling balls and smashing
Golf
off people's fucking bonnets, like boom. They've got it on their dash cams, haven't they? And then you see them diving next to it to get the insurance. I don't know where they get, you know, those videos where they just go, they just plank next to a car and they get up like, you motherfucker. you're like, I've got you on dash cam, mate, just falling over. What the fuck are you talking about? And they just walk off. Like, it's hilarious, man. Some of the fucking insurance things you got on YouTube, man. It's fucking hilarious.
There was this back in like 2013, 2012. There was a popular thing. It wasn't even a YouTube channel. It was like a compilation of things on YouTube called "We Love Russia."
Yeah,
because insurance fraud was so bad in Russia that basically every person had a dash cam. I think it was the Russians that kind of started that trend. You see a lot of it now more and more in this country, but Russia were the first ones to adopt it en masse, and you just get these great compilations of what fucking occurred in Russia, especially on these dash cam footages. Like one of them, a car's just going past the guy and there's a fucking horse's head just hanging out of the passenger seat. What the fuck? Okay. And then one time a guy's beeping his horn in traffic and like the car stops and like these 5 really hench guys get out and he just fucking reverses. He's like, nope, not today. So no, I do like that sort of candidness because everybody's got a supercomputer in their pocket now, they can record in 720, 1080p, like HD quality. People can just record life, and some people's lives are fucking boring. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I can't stand about Facebook? Because I went back on Facebook for the podcast to promote it a little bit. I'm not on it that much, but you see the same faces. One guy will just be like, "This is my grandson. This is my son," every day, and I'm like, "Yeah, good for you, pal."
You know, the ones who have
Watch my podcast, you cunt.
yeah,
Fuck your kids.
you know, fuck your kids, man. Watch the fucking podcast.
We just talk about all sorts.
Well, what were we just saying about
Like
fucking...
Russia and dashcam footage and just candidness, capturing all those moments in life.
Yeah, like, see when I used to, like, remember YouTube?
I remember YouTube, Alex Zane.
Yeah, like, I love programs. That's the sort of telly I like, to like more reality focused shit. Like Cops, for example, like that shit is fucking hilarious. I don't know why I love watching Cops. Cops is fucking. It's just hilarious.
Well, I'm kind of skeptical of these so-called reality shows because this is another thing I was looking into.
I'm willing to accept some of it is scripted, alright, but like, you know,
well,
for the entertainment.
Right, I'll get a bit technical, but then I'll take it back to other TV shows of the like, because I've just started remembering something else that I watched that was quite interesting. Pimp My Ride. Keep that in mind. All right.
I actually watched a documentary on Pimp My Ride.
Yeah. I've seen the same one. Right. Okay. So before I get to that, right, what I hate about reality TV is there's a French philosopher named Jean Baudrillard. He was quite recent. He did a book back in the 1980s called Simulacra and Simulation. And it was kind of like one of the inspirations for The Matrix. And he talks about a simulacra is basically something that's imitating reality, but doing it in a way that's kind of a unsatisfactory representation or imitation. And and reality TV is essentially what's defined as a hyper reality. It's imitating reality. It isn't actually. It shouldn't be called reality TV. It should be called hyper reality TV.
Scripted as fuck TV.
Exactly, because they're trying to imitate situations and scenarios that you'd find in reality, but they're trying to orchestrate it in a way that's not organic, so therefore it loses any semblance of reality. It isn't how reality TV just kind of exploded into the culture so quite recently as well. I mean, Big Brother was...
I think it just captures different like eras of...
Yeah, at what point did those TV executives...
Because our era was Big Brother, and now I would say this era's gone to Love Island.
It's Love Island, and it is...
and shows I've not really heard of.
X on the Beach. It's weird, isn't it? Or, you know, whatever it's called, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. These hyper realities, again, it's all scripted.
But who wants to keep up with the fucking Kardashians?
Lots of people, apparently.
Why?
Another one is The Only Way is Essex or Made in Chelsea. Again, they're trying to sell this simulacra, you know, masquerading as reality.
I kind of enjoy Made in Chelsea for the absurdity, just the way they speak to each other and shit.
I had a girlfriend one time. We're going back 8 years, and she was really into Made in Chelsea, and I kind of got lured into it a little bit because we lived together. So
I'm the same as you. I had an ex that really enjoyed it, and I got lured into it.
But here was the problem. I started to see the formula very quickly. So you see these middle class people doing their things. They're painting. One day they're doing a painting thing together. They're doing a meditation.
They're always drinking a bloody fucking Mary.
Yeah.
They're always drinking a bloody Mary.
And then they go to the nightclub and this is the outfit I'm wearing. And then it would be like, right, next time. And it would give you a little snippet of next week's episode.
Yeah, they're arguing or something.
They're arguing and it really kicks off.
You're a fucking bitch, and it's just 2 seconds of the next episode.
The next episode you watch it, no confrontation takes place and everything interesting that could be potentially interesting about that show happens off screen. And then people come out of the woodwork that were once on that show, whether it be The Only Way is Essex or Made in Chelsea, and they come out of the woodwork and they say, oh yeah, it was scripted. We put in these situations. So going back to Pimp My Ride.
But they always have that little disclaimer at the start, like, this is made for entertainment purposes,
exactly.
blah, blah, blah. But no one reads that shit. It's always small at the bottom. Like,
it can be solved with one little change. Change the concept from reality TV and call it hyper reality TV. Problem solved.
Yeah, people don't really take no notice of that shit. You're not going to get this morning people being... And on hyper reality TV today, we had someone scripted in a scripted event. They're not going to explain it. They're just going to make it sound like it's real.
Yeah.
This happened on the show last night. You must watch it. They're trying to get the ratings and money.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, isn't it? Money. Money, money, money. That's what it's all about. Really? Like with this TV and shit? Not to everyone.
Advertisers, shareholders, viewership, you name it. It's the sellers, consumerism. And going back to Pimp My Ride. So there was I think it's called something historian.
We must have watched the same one. I watched it last night as well.
The YouTube channel is called Weird History. Right, so the one from Weird History, it was 20 minutes long, and he brings up Exhibit a lot. Exhibit was the host of the American version, and he's been on podcasts and all that, explaining everything. He basically introduced...
Exhibit
been on podcasts and explained his role in all of this, because it was over 10 years ago now, 15 years ago now. And it was on MTV, and it exploded. Like, it just took on really, really well. So the premise of Pimp My Ride was, because I didn't even watch this. This is what I gathered based on the way they were explaining it on this documentary, this mini documentary. And the idea is that a contestant would bring their car, a piece of shit car, to get pimped out. And they'd do all these crazy things to it, like they put game cubes in the back of it. Yeah. One episode with a cotton candy machine was put into the boot of the car. And the guy it was his car, was saying, yeah, I'm a fat guy, so they just thought it'd be hilarious to give the fat guy a cotton candy machine. He didn't even like cotton candy, but it was all scripted. And the reality was, the way this show was edited, it was made to look like that. This whole pimping took about 3 days. In reality, it took about 7 months.
Really?
I mean, which is fair play. Like the company responsible for doing all these cars up worked night and day to do the work on these cars. But when they pimped them out, they didn't actually do anything to make it functionally any better, like the engines and all that. Like, it didn't.
It was just aesthetically. But what's the fucking?
And some of the aesthetics weren't even road worthy. They weren't even allowed to be on the road, because I think it was the Fast and Furious franchise, which started off in 2001. That's kind of what got people into the tuning and exotic car scene, whatever they call it. I don't know much about cars, but everybody wanted to tune out their car. You look at the Fast and Furious franchise had a massive influence in the noughties when it came to people doing up their cars, and Pimp My Ride comes along a couple of years later, and everybody's obsessed, like, I want my car done up. But the problem was that they didn't meet legal requirements. They weren't roadworthy, so no one could do anything with their cars, and they still had to spend hundreds of thousands getting it done up properly.
Fucking X on the front of their bonnet, like.
And it was just silly, and some of the houses that Exhibit would go to weren't even the houses of the people. They would just rent those properties, or they would use...
Or just stand by this house while Exhibit knocks the door.
They would literally they were instructed to sit in the living room and wait for Exhibit to turn up at the door. Hey, oh my God, how's it going? Pimp My Ride.
Oh my God, I didn't expect you at all. Exhibit, Mr. Exhibit.
So, perfect example of
Mr. Hex.
So there was two reasons why they did this. So some people lived in absolute shitholes, and also they wanted houses that were close to the garage, because Exhibit would actually do the drive in that person's car from the house to the garage. That was the only thing about it. That was actually real. And him himself, he didn't go off of a script. Like, he was genuinely, he was such an agreeable character for this show when it came to his like riffing and his improvisational skills. That was him. So that was a part of it. He was the most genuine part of it.
I remember a friend of mine, right? I won't say his name because I'll still keep this secret for you. Don't worry. I remember walking to town one time, and it must have been like 14 and that, and he was like, don't tell anyone, but I still watch Pimp My Ride. I was like, who the fuck am I going to tell that to? Oh, by the way, he still watches, you know what I mean? Why keep that secret?
Some dude's like, with the one with Exhibit in it?
No, the one with Tim Westwood. You ever caught the Pimp My Ride, the UK version?
No, I saw the international version. Was it Little Wayne that did the international version?
I'm not sure. I've seen the Exhibit one, and I've seen the Tim Westwood one, the UK version. Not much. It was just Tim Westwood, wasn't it?
One thing that fascinates me is the evolution of, should I say evolution? Is evolution American? Evolution. I don't know. Who cares? The evolution of game shows. So a little bit of trivia for you. The TV commission, whatever they're called, of this country, they kind of had a cap on how much money could be given out, maximum could be given out on a game show. Mm-hmm. And that was all lifted in the early 1990s. So that's why you had these game shows come out, like the Bruce Forsyth Get Your Cards Right and what was it? The Price is Right. Price is Right. And nobody had seen prizes of this value before. You know, a car, a caravan, fucking a shed, a boat.
You get all these fucking 90s Karens like, oh, we must go on Price is Right.
That's what
we must win the fucking holiday to Alicante.
Exactly. Come on down.
Steven.
Like that.
I'm soaking, Stephen.
But think about it, right? Before that, you had Bullseye. In one.
And you can win this calculator. In 2.
It's 2 Steins. Bully Bullseye Steins.
In 3, a candle holder.
And Bully Bullseye's prize of the day, what is it? It's her shrubbery set.
Beano.
It's a Jim Fixed It placard.
You can ride to Savile.
But the point of making this, the prizes in these shows were shocking, but it wasn't until the TV Commission got rid of that maximum prize limit that game shows really started kicking off in the 90s with Price is Right, with Get Your Cards Right, and Michael Barrymore, Sound of Music.
Mate, I fucking loved Michael Barrymore in the 90s. I ain't gonna fucking lie to you. That guy was comedy gold.
Right, so he would have been in his 40s around this time, and as an older man now, I'll see reruns of that show, and I'll just he fucking paces up and down, because don't forget how
he must have been on a shitload of coke though.
Probably.
Honestly, and you watch it and you can tell you're like, he's just fucking erratic, like. But still fucking genius.
Oh yeah, but you know what I mean, like.
No one can say Michael Barrymore was not a good host. He actually was
a good host.
Genius.
He was but for those who aren't familiar with this show, the set design of it, there was like 3 tiers to it. So he'd be pacing up and down for like 45 minutes straight, going up to the individual
constantly cracking jokes, never stopping. Like, he was definitely on fucking the devil's dandruff.
Oh mate, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Like, honestly,
I mean, didn't cocaine end his career? Didn't he have like some sort of orgy going on in his house or something?
I don't know. Someone died in his pool. No one knows who did it to this day, or did he just drown? I don't know.
Another good TV scandal.
What's that?
Charles Ingram, Major Ford. Who wants to be a millionaire?
Who wants to be a millionaire guy? Fucking hell.
Oh man.
This is obvious. You know what I mean? How fucking obvious. Just every time Chris asks a question, it's like.
So do you want to know this? I mean, I know you probably know some of the
We've
story.
already said Chris Ingram's story though on Ireland James, haven't we?
Okay, all I will say is
but
that
it's still funny to bring up just how obvious. Like,
what I love about.
So ask me a question.
About what?
Just ask me a question. Like, who wants to be a millionaire? Multiple choice question.
I mean,
and then give me the A, B, or C at the answer.
How many tires does the car have?
A.
1.
B. C.
4.
Oh, it must be C, Chris. You know what I mean? That's how obvious it fucking was. They might as well have just been standing up clapping. Oh, this is for Tim, by the way. I'm going to stand up for 60 seconds. Gives me a chance to fucking stretch my legs. This is just for Tim Warner. If he doesn't sit down in his episode, I'll be good.
I asked him as well. I said, Tim, will you sit down on your next episode? I was like, I can't guarantee it. I don't know, because it makes me feel so uneasy. I'm
gonna be like a fucking character in Dexter, or is it Dexter? One of the cartoon shows where you can't see the dad's faces.
No, cow and chicken.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna be like for the next 20 seconds.
All right, well, don't stand up too long because it'll irritate my dad.
There you go, Tim. If you don't want to hold up to your end of the bargain, I'll kick your ass.
Yeah, there's this characteristic that my dad has that I've inherited, and it's quite funny because my dad gets frustrated when people pace up and down. It makes him feel nervous. So the cat's meowing. Especially like if it's a day where I'm doing a late shift at work, like a 2 to 10, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I just want to process that I'm going to a job that doesn't fulfill me, you know.
Sure, and then someone's pacing the fucking round you, and you're like,
that cat's meowing. Should we let him in?
Go on in.
All right, we got our first guest, Jaffa the cat.
Here he is, the big man himself. You probably can't even see him behind all the shit. So
let me just get comfortable.
Just don't turn around, because everyone might see your balls and I have to blur them out. He's off. Anyway, what did you want to bring up?
No, I was watching I tried to get into that documentary last night about the history of cyberpunk. I'd seen it before, but it'd been a while since I'd seen it. It's a 3-part series. Part 1 is about 40 minutes long, 50 minutes long. Part 2 then goes into an hour and a half, and then part 3 is a mammoth 2.5 hours long. And I found it fascinating, especially part 1 when it talks about proto cyberpunk, which is your Philip K. Dicks, your Alfred Besters. These were authors from the 1950s. Shall I give a little explanation of what cyberpunk is before I go down this little tangent? People will be thinking, what is cyberpunk? It's a subgenre of science fiction. But it's almost
No, it's kind of self-explanatory, isn't it? Like neon-drenched cities, darker than being in space with the galactic shit. It's more grounded in real life science fiction, futuristic cities. You know, you don't have
dystopian futures, because you got to bear in mind, like, cyberpunk really exploded in the 1980s, 2000 AD, the British comic with Judge Dredd. You had William Gibson with Neuromancer. You had Ridley
Still
Scott.
need to read that, by the way, Neuromancer.
No, don't. It's a pile of shite.
No, is it shit? Right, fair enough.
It's celebrated because it's a genre, beginnings of an established genre of cyberpunk. I mean, you had proto cyberpunk with Philip K. Dick's "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep." You have it with Alfred Bester's "The Star's My Destination," which is one of my. The way you feel about androids is the way I feel about "The Star's My Destination," but they're both examples of proto cyberpunk.
Androids ain't my favourite book. It's a Double Star.
Double Star by Richard Heinlein. Yeah, I need to finish that.
Great book, mate.
Well, I did.
Well, maybe not the greatest science fiction story, but the story itself, just a little bit of spoilers here, but the way, like, how good of an actor the way he writes the actor.
Yeah.
You know, like, how good of an actor he is, and when he gets into the role of acting like this galactic president, he explains how he gets into the, like, what's the word they use for it? You know, like acting styles.
Method acting.
Yeah, like he explains how he gets into the method, how he's going to get into the character of the president, and how he doesn't need makeup and shit to do it. It's just all in physical. How he's going to copy the president's physical movements and his facial expressions and shit. And that's how he's going to act. He doesn't need. That's how good of an actor he is. He doesn't need fit prosthetics and shit. He can just act like the person, and it's believable. You know.
I don't get on too well with the author's style. I mean, I have read some of his books. I've read Starship Troopers, and I've read The Door into Summer.
It hasn't aged well, some of his, but like a lot of things from that era haven't aged well. You just need to kind of push it aside, you know.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, Androids was my first introduction to.
If the book's riddled with it, then I'll get it. But like, it's not. Yeah. It's kind of here and there, hit and miss.
Well, my first introduction to sci-fi was Philip K. Dick's Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
Same.
I mean, it's completely different to its movie counterpart Blade Runner, but they're both great individually. I mean, I love the whole idea of the.
Do you know what it feels like to me? I know Blade Runner came out years later, but I feel like, it's mad to say, but I feel like Androids was inspired by Blade Runner a little bit, and Blade Runner was inspired by Androids, but obviously Androids came out way before Blade Runner, so it doesn't make sense, but it does in my head. You know what I mean?
That goes into that other thing I was talking about on the way to the shop.
There we go. Yes, he's returned.
He's returned the cat, Jaffa. Come here, Jaffa. I mean, we'll delve on that later, but retrocausation, about if we do live in a simulation, then retrocausation could explain certain phenomenons in quantum theory. The whole idea of like possible outcomes of the future could influence the past simultaneously, because it's not a linear path. Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet. If the occasion comes, it comes. But yeah, that's what I'm saying about the Blade Runner having an influence on androids and androids vice versa, you know? Because this novel came out it was published in 1968, and it was ahead of its time because it's the future year of 1992. The year we were born 30 years ago. Jesus Christ.
Crazy, isn't it?
And
oh God, can you hear that? Where's my mic gone?
It's not our first guest by the way. That was Flash Peasants. Check out the previous episode with that. But it's the first one in this particular setting. We haven't had a guest yet, except for this cat.
Oh well, and there he goes. He'll be back soon. Don't worry.
He's gonna want out the window.
Nah, he'll meow. You'll hear him. In the film Blade Runner.
Yeah, but not the machine itself. That kind of got cut, didn't it?
Oh yeah, but I mean, you can tell the androids have no like. You can see like with the acting, especially with the fucking acting, man.
Rutger Hauer killed it.
Even his friend, I forget his friend's name. the actual actor's name. He's dead now, but
Leon.
that's the guy's name in the film. But the actual actor's name, I can't
He
remember.
died.
He's been in a lot of films.
He was in The Fifth Element, and
I always see him in films and be like, no way, it's the fucking guy.
there's this thing known as the Turing test, which Alan Turing came up with. It's where you have like an interview in the room, and then in one other room is a human and the other is a machine. And if the machine can convince the third party that it's a human, then it's passed the Turing test, and we haven't reached that phase yet, I don't think. But there's like an inverse version of it, which is...
Do you know the easiest way to tell the difference between an android and human?
How's that?
Pull the pants down.
If it's an action man, you know...
That there, my friend, that's a nub. You're an android. Get the fuck... You nubby little bastard.
But that's what I love about the whole Voight-Kampff test in both the book and the movie, is that they're trying to measure empathetic responses.
That's what got me into sci-fi. Reading the is it Voight-Kampff or Moint-Kampff? Am I saying
Voight-Kampff?
What's Moint-Kampff? Is that fucking some Nazi shit? Anyway, the Voight-Kampff death. Reading that, mate, open my brain up to fucking sci-fi. Reading that actual scene in the book.
For me, it was the empathy machine when
Really?
J.R. Izidor was going through because at first I was confused. I'm like, where the fuck are we right now? Because that was my introduction to this man's work. But another interesting one that, I mean, we'll keep talking about fucking Blade Runner if we want, but we'll go back and forth between it because there's so many other works by this man that I love it. He died.
We can talk about the 13th floor.
Yeah, Craig Barker.
I'd say that's solely about simulation, really.
Well, I said this to Craig. I get to not brag about it, but the fact I got to say this to the man's face, Craig Barker, the guy who plays Douglas.
We had the fucking pleasure of talking to like one of our favorite actors. Like, it's rare you get that opportunity. I'm joking now, but fucking just having the pleasure to talk to this man that's been in like a couple of our favorite films.
Well, he was the lead role in the 13th Floor, which came out the same year as The Matrix did. The Matrix just
trashed it at the box office, but it's not about that. Like,
the 13th Floor kind of covers all concepts. It took 3 Matrix movies to wrap up their philosophical points. I can say that word now, thank God. And whereas the 13th Floor does it in one movie, the whole idea of a simulation within a simulation, determinism, all the Jean-Jacques Rousseau's teachings about our relationship with reality, the material world, our relationship with it, our emotions, and it did it in one movie. And that film, because it was on Netflix, this was 2013, I started getting blazed in my own company, and I'm checking out Netflix. I'm staying more in the house. And I was like, what's this? The 13th Floor. Like, Film 4's free now. Here you go.
Really?
Yeah, swear to God.
I didn't know that.
You had to pay extra for Film 4 at one point. And so I remember one time seeing, this is around the time that the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes had come out. All right. So you had to wait about a year or two before movies would hit terrestrial TV. But me being young and dumb, I was like, oh, cool, Planet of the Apes is on TCM. I click on it and it's the 1968 version.
What's the actor's name?
Charleston Heston.
Something Heston.
He was like
Charleston Heston.
Towards the end of his life,
Right.
he became a poster child for the NRA, the National Rifle Association. He's in that Michael Moore documentary, Bowling for Columbine.
Really?
So anyway, so the 1968 original version of Planet of the Apes, which
that's the one to watch anyway.
That's the one to watch, exactly. But so I'm a kid and I'm kind of a snob to old movies at that age.
Yeah, same.
But I sat and watched it and I fucking loved it. No, it's cool. I know what you mean, those old school movies, like me watching 13
I'm just saying that's the one that, right, it clicked in my brain, like, some of these old movies are actually good, you know, like, they're not all shit. They're not all just cowboy and Indian films, you know, like.
No, I was just thinking back to Planet of the Apes, right? So they're kind of like trashy B movies based on a French novel. No, well, yeah, going back to the original, right? So there was 5 films originally. So the first Planet of the Apes comes out, and it's just a good film. And then the second one comes along a year later, and it's another astronaut trying to find the character from the first movie. And it turns out that it's not just apes that rule Earth in the future, but it's also you've got these human beings that live underground, and they worship an atom bomb, and they're telepathic. But they're horribly mutated. They've got like these huge heads, these huge brains. And the second movie ends with that bomb being detonated. And you just assume that that's the end of the series. It's the end of Earth. But the third movie, it turns out two of the the apes from the first movie, the smart ones that kind of helped the guy out, Charlton Heston character out, make it back to Earth 1970.
We're saying his name wrong. It's not Charleston. It's defo something else.
But the point I'm making is that it kind of does a loop around on itself, because in the third movie, because those apes go back to Earth, present day Earth, which is what, 1970 at the time. Charlton Heston. There we go. They end up going back to Earth, present day, 1970, 1971, whatever. And at first, they're greeted with, like, they're kind of respected, and everyone's in awe of these talking apes. And they become the talk of the town. They're like celebrated. But then as soon as the female ape gets pregnant, they all start kicking off and they go after them. And the young ape, the baby ape, escapes because the mother puts it in the circus or something. And then you got the fourth and the fifth movies, which all sort of comes full circle to how apes became the dominant species of Earth. Anyway,
what's the twist at the end of the very end fifth movie? What's the twist?
I don't remember the fifth movie, but
there is some twist, because I remember watching a YouTube video about fucking stupid twists, and the final Planet of the Apes had a mad twist. But this is what I was going to segue into now. You mentioned
Grandfather Paradox.
No. Movies that started making a good return, shitting them out, and then just got worse and worse. What's a good example of that?
Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I mean, that always kind of
in a way, the first two movies, although not accurate to the games, were actually watchable. Like, because you get the first film in the mansion, and then the second film in the city with the Nemesis, kind of watchable. Then you just got the third, fourth. Do
you want to know an interesting story about the Resident Evil movies?
Go on, tell me.
So I kind of tapped out after the third one. I don't really know what happened after that, right?
No, yeah. I've watched up until Extinction. That would be the fourth.
There were 7 films in total, right? So
7. I only got to the fourth. I watched the fourth in the cinema, and I watched the little kid get ran over that same day.
There was a stunt double for Mila Djokovic, and she was a very high regarded stunt double. She did kickboxing, she rode motorcycles and all that. She was just top of her game. And so there was a stunt that they were having to do for the final movie, and it was absolutely pissing it down. So they were all like, well, we're all on set, we might as well get some stunts done. So her stunt...
What year would this be? 2017 maybe?
2015. The movie came out 2017, I think, but this is about 2 years, because they filmed like 2 years before it even releases. And she's got to do this stunt where she's on a motorcycle, and she's going about 70 miles an hour, no helmet on, by the way. And as she's going...
That has got to be her decision though, innit? No helmet. Got to be. They wouldn't have been like, just don't wear a helmet. Fuck health and safety.
Well, I'll tell you her side of it in a second, right? So I'm just giving you the details. So you have a camera that's attached to a crane, and it's meant to rise up, but there was a malfunction with it, so it didn't ride up. So she went straight through that at 70 miles an hour, and she lost one of her arms as a result. So she lost an arm, had spinal damage done, nerve damage in her face. It's horrific. But she has come out and sort of spoke about it. She was on believe it or not, Ross Kemp did a podcast for like 6 months.
Ross Kemp on podcast.
And he had her on as a guest, and she spoke all about it. It's fucking horrific what she went through. They paid her 70 grand, and she sued them. She's like, fucking shove your 70 grand up your ass. They were filming in South Africa, where I think it's a little bit more lenient. The health and safety is a bit more lenient over there. And she said on the Ross Kemp podcast that she had a gut instinct, like something's not right. We're filming a motorcycle sequence in the rain, like in the pissing down rain, and I'm not wearing a helmet because obviously Mila Djokovic's character Alice probably isn't wearing a helmet in the scene. They're cutting corners left, right, and center because they know they're going to make a profit on these movies, but they're still expensive movies anyway. They all are.
I will never forgive the fucking Resident Evil fans that continue to fucking pay money to watch that shit.
Well,
and not give us a fucking sick Resident Evil film for years, and they still haven't. Even the fucking most recent one, they shit out, was dog shit. Yeah, they might have had a few, oh, look at this fucking scene from the game here, scene from the game there, Leon fucking's in it, Claire's in it. Oh, that's the people from the original game. That's before they even get in the helicopter for the original game. Oh, shit.
There you go, that's his rant on Resident Evil
fucking
games.
Why can't someone just fucking stop kissing the mic, Jaffa? Why can't someone just fucking write literally the game with the cutscenes? Take out here shitty little puzzles here and there that we're not going to watch in the film. That's not going to be entertaining to watch. Just dance around it.
Do you know what I think the problem is?
Would be a fucking sick film. How fucking atmospheric, scary, like creepy it would be. Like, because the zombies just walk. You know what I mean? And it's a mansion.
It's been done to death though. The zombie genre. The
zombie genre, yeah. But like certain things haven't. Like,
do you know one of my favorite zombie movies?
I've never seen a decent stony zombie film. There's some out there. There's Bong of the Dead. There's this.
Bong of the Dead.
Yeah, there's like 4 of them now. There was a B movie one. I can't remember what it's called. Something of the Dead, and like these two stoner dudes meet up. They're actually a funny scene at the start where the guy's like, these people are asking about his roommate and that, and he's like, oh no, he used to just buy weed off me, but one time he came round and never left. That's the only good part in the whole movie. Literally, what do they do to the zombie genre? They just fucking like...
I just remember the franchise that gets shut out despite the fact it's not very good.
What?
Sharknado.
Sharknado, mate. The first one wasn't even good.
So the premise of Sharknado, for those that don't know...
it's sharks in a tornado.
Yeah. And people watched the fuck out of it because they made sequels. They realised, oh my god, it's so bad it's good sort of situation.
Transformers. The first one was pretty good.
I don't know. I don't watch that shit.
First Transformers was actually pretty good. I know, the stigma behind Michael Bay and that, but the first, like, if you watch the first Transformers, good. It had a good lead on to. It could have been something good, you know.
There was a Michael Bay movie that.
And then just.
Yeah, there's a Michael Bay movie that's actually really. It starts off really good. Came out in 2005. It's called The Island. So the premise is that.
The one with Ewan McGregor?
Yeah, Ewan McGregor, Scarlett Johansson.
That is actually really good.
Well, it starts off good and then it kind of has that Michael Bay bullshit towards
the
it.
end was a bit like whiffy.
All right, so here's the premise of the movie. You've supposedly in the future, because there's a big twist. I don't want to give that away, but actually I'm going to give it away because it's been out for over 15 years. You've got the last human beings on Earth live in this, like, not a sanctuary necessarily, but they're just sort of living in the last place on Earth because the rest of the Earth is uninhabitable for reasons I can't remember. But there's like this lottery that goes on, and if one of the individuals wins the lottery, they get to go live on the island, which is like Eden. It's like the last place on Earth where we can still live. And the way this thing's set up, everybody wears the same clothes. They have to eat a specific diet. They're not allowed to really interact with one another. Like, they can't get too intimate. They come from what's called quarantine. And Ewan McGregor plays a character named Lincoln Six Echo. And he's been living this life for about 3 years now. But because of his mate, played by Steve Buscemi, who's a mechanic who lives outside of that life, he's just doing all the maintenance work. He kind of plants the seed in Ewan McGregor's mind that it's not his way of life isn't what he thinks it is. And the twist of the story is very early on is that they're actually clones. They're all clones. And when they win the lottery, they're not actually going to the last haven on Earth. They are being murdered for their organs because their real counterparts back on Earth, which is fine, by the way, it's just normal everyday life. But they're just, these rich people get their organs from these clones, but they don't, what they're called the sponsors. These rich people that are paying towards this service to get clones made, they don't know that the clones are being made. As far as they're concerned, it's being sold as, oh, it's just like, you know, non-sentient beings harvesting your organs that don't think or live or feel anything. They just have the organs, and then when you need the organ, boom, we take it from them. Because it was what Steve Buscemi describes as the new American dream. People just want to live forever, almost like a bit like with Altered Carbon with the stacks, but a slightly more modern version. Or no, I was just giving you the lowdown on that Philip K. Dick story, the penultimate truth about people living underground. And the rich people of the world are profiteering on the surface through real estate. And it kind of ties into THX, plays into the island. And another one that comes to mind as well is the Kurt.
Sorry to interrupt. Equilibrium's a lot like THX.
I was just about to say Equilibrium, right? So that's written and directed by Kurt Wimmer. It's a society of people after World War III where people suppression their emotions by daily injections. And Christian Bale, who works for the Tetragrammatar, it's called. It's like this secret service where he's just an absolute... This is fictional martial arts called Gun Kata. And he's just phenomenal at it. But he misses his dosage and starts to experience emotion and ends up joining the resistance. And it's a great film.
I mean, this start and middle can be a bit like long in the tooth, but the end, mate, fuck, is so good. So good.
That was a great
seen Equilibrium, watch Equilibrium. So good. And I think it's highly underrated. It's a fucking great film, and this is totally irrelevant to any science fiction and shit, but Inside Man with Clive Owen and Denzel.
I've heard of it. Is it good?
Fucking really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Clive Owen's a bank robber, and Denzel's like the guy trying to stop it from happening. They're inside, they've taken hostages. I can't really say too much more because the twist is insane.
Don't spoil it for me, then I'll check it out.
Watched Inside Man, great film.
So with Rachel the other night, we caught Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. Trashy 90s movie, but I was saying to Rachel as I was watching it, I was like,
kind of another film that got a sequel, just shat a sequel out.
Just shat a sequel out.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that.
Until just Keanu Reeves is like, hell no, am I getting on a boat?
I know.
Imagine he took the job, right, and it was him, and he gets stuck in a fucking speed situation again. How unrealistic is that? But this time he's on a boat.
Well, I was saying to Rachel that in my mind, as I'm watching it, Speed is one of the greatest action movies from a screenwriter's perspective.
The first Speed, mate, is that it's got some cheesy ass moments, but it's a great film.
Yeah. There's that scene where, in the middle of the movie, the bus gets itself onto a kind of a private highway that hasn't been finished being built yet. But they don't know that. They just think, oh, you're going to get a stretch of highway where there could be no obstacles. So from a screenwriter's perspective, like any important rule when it comes to, especially that type of genre, is the tension has to keep building. And that's what Speed does so well. There's always an obstacle. And one obstacle is never really resolved. There's certain... They resolve certain things. For if you need the premise, it's about a bus that has a bomb on it, and Keanu Reeves is this cop trying to stop the bomber, but the bus goes below 50 miles an hour, it's going to blow up. So he gets on the bus and he's basically trying to contain the situation. And Sandra Bullock, the lead actress, she's
the damsel in distress.
Sort of the damsel in distress, but also like she
does help out quite a lot.
Yeah. She ends up having to drive the bus.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, she takes over.
She becomes the love interest.
She becomes the bus driver for quite a lot of the movie, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sandra. I fucking give you less credit than you deserve for that film. My bad.
Yeah, she's great.
You are great in Speed, actually. Yeah.
So that's the premise of the movie. I love how the Simpsons do a piss take of it. And he goes, "It was about a bus that was speeding. And if it didn't stop speeding, it would blow up. It was called the bus that couldn't slow down." There's a scene in when Milhouse and Bart are on the bus and Otto's going crazy. I think he's racing with Marge. And Milhouse goes, "Wow, it's like Speed 2, except on a bus instead of a boat." Great line. That's a great line. But so as you know, I'm an author, but I want to write screenplays at some point in my life. So I'm looking at it from a screenwriter's perspective, and I'm thinking this is the perfect action movie because the stakes keep rising up. It's like not only can the bus not slow down, but then you've got traffic, and then you've got, all these obstacles.
The bus driver dying.
The bus driver gets shot. It's like, what do you do about that? They can't disarm the bomb. They're losing gas. One of them, right? So they're on this stretch of highway that's got no obstacles whatsoever. So we as an audience can breathe a little, like, there's no more obstacles. We're cool now. We just got to figure out. We just got to figure out now how to stop this bomb. And but then it turns out that the highway isn't finished because obviously the screenwriter's like, all right, let's throw in another obstacle. And obviously alongside the bus, you've got like the police cruiser, and one of the guys like, "Captain, the bridge isn't finished." He goes, "What? It's supposed to be finished 18 months ago." He's like, "Well, I guess they fell behind."
Question, because you brought up The Simpsons, I was going to ask you, how, because they take the piss out of quite a lot of things, pop culture things and that. South Park, what's the greatest piss take they've done pop culture wise?
And I think this was either season 8 or season 9. One of the episodes that I thought was absolutely hilarious, even when I was 13 years of age. It's even funny now that I'm older and I get more of the references. But it was when Cartman watches Passion of the Christ, and he becomes indoctrinated by Mel Gibson's message. He suddenly just turns into Hitler, and he gets people coming together to march, and he starts chanting in German all these Nazi bloody talking points or slogans or whatever you want to call them. And but on the flip side of that, because what I like about South Park is that they always have kind of two plots playing simultaneously, and the other side plot of the episode is Stan. Is it Stan?
One with the hat. Not Kyle.
That's it. Sorry, it's been that long since I've watched it. So Stan and Kenny go to see Passion of the Christ. No, it's either Stan and Kenny or Stan and
Kyle.
I can't remember.
But I think Kenny's... No, he's not dead. Carry on.
So they go to see Passion of the Christ and they fucking hate it. They think it's awful. So they actually try and get their money back off Mel Gibson. And they get to his house. It's back then when they actually had the paper cutouts of the celebrity's face.
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson's just off his fucking nut. He's just mental. And that was an episode that always stuck with me. That one, and when a Walmart is introduced into South Park.
Yeah.
And they burn it down, it just keeps growing back, and they treat it like
That's season 8, yeah.
Yeah, it's like its own entity, and it turns into the Matrix, where you got the architect and the TV department.
Isn't that the episode when people die in the Walmart and they shit themselves, and then Cartman out laughing at him, they're like, "That's what happens when you die, you shit yourself." Like fucking. That's how I like.
Yeah. So when they destroy, I'm basing this on like 15-year memory. When they finally destroy the wall market, like it implodes in on itself like a black hole, and then shit just comes out of it.
Yeah.
Because the architect's dead.
I think my favourite piss take one is the YouTube one. Just because fucking it's genius. They've got like that chocolate rain dude just like popping up everywhere, going, "Chocolate rain," like everywhere. Fucking,
that was perfect.
I can do that voice wicked. Chocolate rain. I don't know the rest of the song though.
Well,
it's the only bit I know.
Goes back to that Russo love talk we're talking about, where you gotta love your people. Just want to be surrounded by company. So
yeah, when they're force feeding shit that you're never gonna watch in your life down your throat.
My advice is to anyone: if you can't stand your own company and you have to have people around you, no matter who they are, at least be a half decent host. At least put something decent on the YouTube.
Yeah.
For your so-called friends,
like fucking cart knocks or something, you know.
Yeah, for your so-called friends that are just using you because you're the only friend out of the whole group that has a
room that everyone can smoke in.
Yeah, that has their own place.
Like because like I used to be the guy who had the room. You come round, my mum would be like, "Yeah, come in, he's upstairs." Like, you know what I mean? She wouldn't be like, "Don't you dare smoke marijuana in my establishment, you little fucks." She'd be like, "Yeah, just come in, take off your bra if you like, you know." Let those balls flow freely, boys. You know me. I'm Jackie Marie. I cook curries. She did actually cook a lot of curries. And mashed potato.
And sausages, which I ended up taking over.
And sausages that Daniel did not let my mum cook.
No, so what happened was we just got to Corby. And she was just... And when I'm a bit OCD about pork. Like, I'm a bit wary.
Are you assuming my mum can't cook sausages? She's cooked me sausages my whole life. I'm fine.
No, let me explain myself. I'm not justifying my behaviour. I just want to explain my behaviour. All right, so...
My mum understands though, like she don't care.
A lot of people around me were getting food poisoning, and we had a really important podcast coming up with Flash Peasants that same day, and I was like, I'm not getting sick over anything. I was like, Jackie, let me take over, all right? Because I like to put my sausages in the oven and just let them burn, cremate them for 40 minutes, so that way I know there's no risk. And but she's pan frying them, and I'm like, let me take over, Jackie, and I cooked the fuck out of them.
Fair enough, mate. They were still nice.
Yeah,
Still enjoyed them.
Still
feel the whole.
But I just wanted to tell that sausage story.
Yeah, man. Maybe talk about our little adventures on Corby anyway. Why not? Fucking, we had a good little weekend, didn't we?
Corby was great, and the Flash Peasants were great as well. Really, it was an obstacle for us. But when we got back, so it was the first time I ever drove to my hometown. It's only 190 miles away, but I'd never done the journey before. You're a great little co-captain. It's like Meet the Fockers.
Thanks, man.
I was Robert De Niro, and you're Ben Stiller. Like, you want to be my co-captain?
All I did was read stuff off paper, but you know.
And it worked out a treat.
And provide
and
some
it was our first obstacle where we had to set up in someone else's house. Donna, thank you for letting us use your conservatory. We had to set up in someone else's house, do the Corby drive, which I've never done before, set up in someone else's conservatory.
Yeah, so this was the same day as well. You got to bear in mind,
All
we
on the same
travelled
day.
109 miles in the same day.
Set up the podcast, had the Flash Peasants on, did a good interview, and then we got it all on the computer. It all happened within 48 hours. And then we got back here, we're sat in this living room 48 hours later, and we're just like, holy fuck, what a ride.
Me, because you won't think we went Nottingham on the day after that. It was 2 days after.
The day after we recorded Flash Peasants, we went to Nottingham to watch my dad at an open mic night.
That's still a bit of travel as well. Not too far, but still an hour's drive, isn't it?
Just being in people's company, it was great. I loved it. But being in people's company,
man.
just constantly socialising. And by the end of it, we were just frazzled. It took me about 2 days to recover from that. Like, I had work and all that.
I had a good old long sleep as well. And I remember the day you coming to pick me up to go, like, I'd done 2 edibles the night before thinking, I'll get a good night's sleep off of this. I woke up fucking like Mike Tyson just decked me in the face. Honestly, I was like, holy, I had to message you, like, give me 15 minutes. I'm fucking like, It's
fucked. Alright. I was already pretty much packed and I was laying in my bed like Cameron. Was it like, is his name Cameron?
From what?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I'm not sure.
Have you ever seen that film?
His name's fucking Ferris Bueller.
No, but his mate's called Cameron.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He's constantly depressed. He hates his life. He hates his parents. He hates his dad in particular. He's just laying there. You could hear the music in the background, like he's like, he puts his finger on the voice on the phone receiver. He's like, hello.
The little things Americans have, where it's like
back in the 80s.
Thing,
yeah, the little tape cassette.
They just press a button and it's like plays it back to them.
I know.
Beep.
He's like, what do you want, Ferris? Ferris like, come on out.
Come on down.
I'm dying. I'm ill. And that's how I felt when you text me like 15 more minutes. Like, oh, thank God.
Man, honestly, I woke up like I was gonna die, man. I needed those little 15 minutes just to extra lie down, you know. But yeah, it was a mad weekend.
It was great. And
fucking. I know this is gonna kind of sound hairy-fairy, but it was quite spiritual, you know. When like that last night when we were just talking with Donna and we pretty much just it was like a fucking therapy session. We're just like opening up about shit and we rarely talk about, you know.
Transcending, wasn't it? Like being outside of ourselves, putting ourselves in situations that we're not really been in before, and it's like cool. You find out a lot about yourself when you put yourself in different situations that require a degree of thinking. You know, a degree of
wasn't
caution.
Even that. We were literally just unloading.
Oh yeah, no, that was more winding down. It's just such a good vibe in that conservatory.
And like stuff I rarely talk about. I was just fucking, you know, getting it all off my chest, and it was because it was good to have a perspective like that from Donna. Like I don't know how to describe her personality.
Gregarious.
Nah, not quite gregarious. Yeah, warm and opening and very like relaxing, and you just felt comfortable talking about that shit with her. Cause I said this in the Flash Presents. I say shit in a good way, like, but anyway. And I just felt comfortable talking about like sort of saying, and she'd give you good advice as well. She was giving good advice back, and it stuck with me. It actually stuck with me, and it's, you know, someone's a good soul when fucking their advice sticks with you. Because if someone just gives you advice and it goes over your head, you know, like they're just talking nonsense.
Yeah, she's very wise, and Donna's got some good stories to tell, and I can't wait for her to be on the podcast because, you know, she lived in South Africa during the apartheid, so she's got a lot of stories to tell. Speaking of South Africa, there was this author I read named Tom Sharp.
What a segue. Talking of South Africa, talking of the apartheid.
There was this British author named Tom Sharp, and I read a book by him called Righteous Assembly. It's basically about these 2 really corrupt cops in South Africa. Oh, man, the book is just fucking wild, but I laughed out loud. Like there's this lawyer that's got a speech impediment, and one of the commanders is confessing. And he's like, "What'd you confess to?" And he's like, "Lesbianism." And the speech impediment lawyer's like, "Lesbianism? That's impossible." And that just really fucking... I read that out loud and I thought that was hilarious. And I read it to people close to me and they didn't find it funny because I'm reading off a page. I'm like, lesbianism? That's impossible. And getting no laughs from that just broke my heart. Like,
why are they not laughing?
Because they're arseholes.
Lesbianism?
That is impossible.
Impossible? What film is that of?
No. That's from the book.
Yeah, but there's a film where the guy's like, impossible.
I don't know.
Am I thinking of Life of Brian? I don't know. Fuck knows.
I tell you what, I just thought of a really trashy film that I love, a guilty pleasure of mine. It's like, I'm not a big fan of disaster movies, but one in particular that I fucking love is The Kool.
Disaster movie.
Yeah.
Joking. Fuck that shit.
There's a film called The Kool, came out in 2003.
Pierce Brosnan?
No, Aaron Eckhart.
Oh, that's fucking the Deep Impact. That's the Pierce Brosnan one, the volcano one.
The volcano one is called...
Deep Impact.
No, that's the Tommy Lee Jones one. Cause it was
oh, yeah.
Dante's Peak.
Yeah, that's it. I knew it began with a D. It is Dante's Peak. You're right.
I'm just thinking of Dante from Grandma's Boy. What is that ringing? Do I have a tumour?
I was just about to fucking say that exact line, you motherfucker.
There's the fucking king of the jungle.
Do I have a tumour? It's just like, it's his actual ringtone.
Alex, is that you? I fucking quit there fucking months ago, bro.
He's like, what the fuck? I quit there months ago, man. It's like the next day.
Get the fear shit. Get the Frankenstein shit.
I've never been that high where I think a month's gone by the next day. I've never been that high. Have you?
I've been in some precarious situations.
Wait, what month is it? I've never been that high.
One time I smoked 2 pipes and then I sat down on my living room couch all by myself, and I just thought, I really want to socialise with someone right now, so I messaged Jordan Treewalker. I was like, I'm coming to your house, bro. It's 9:15 at night on a weekday.
Coming to pop that spot, bro.
And he's just like, yeah.
Sorry, Jordan.
And he's just like, okay. And I jumped in my car, forgetting I just smoked 2 pipes of weed. Right? I'm driving through my estate at 9:15 at night, and I was just like, where am I? But not like, where am I geographically? Where am I in my life right now? In the universe. There was no concept of the past tense or the future tense. It's like Memento, where a scene begins, and the weed made me live in media res. I was in the middle of the action, but I don't know how I got there. I was just like, I'm in a car. What are these buildings? And then
was it your hairdresser car as well?
Was that
the hairdresser car as well?
It might have been
the
actually.
Mazda,
yeah, I was in my Mazda.
Down
I was in my soft top Mazda, having a fucking existential crisis high off 2 pipes. Like, where am I?
You're indicating, but the fucking convertible comes down.
No, because you had to take it off yourself.
You're trying to steer, but instead you're lifting the fucking...
Mate, that car was cursed. I was going through a midlife crisis at 27 years of age. I just didn't know where I was going in life and who I was. I had a nice job. It's the same job I got now, but I was doing it for 5 days a week. And I was doing a bit of PT on the side, and I was just like going insane. I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a writer, but this was 2019. This is before any of that shit happened that gave me the opportunity to pursue that. I was losing my mind, and then I was hanging out with this guy down the road from Rack's place here, and he was obsessed with Mazdas because he was into tuning and all that. He worked at Quick Fit, and
Subaru Imprezas and all that.
Yeah, we drive past a Mazda MX-5.
What
been
geezer.
Selling for £1,200, and we're like, let's get it. So he inspects the car. Bear in mind, this guy's just a tyre fitter. He looks at the car and he's like, yeah, it's good. I was like, right, well, if he says it's good, then it's good. And spend £1,200 on it. I'm with my mum at the time because obviously she had to take me there. And she's just like,
she wasn't like, what the fuck are you doing down
Pretty much. She's like, what the fuck are you doing? £1,200 on this? So
why the fuck? The one time you should have listened to your mum.
I know. And I bought it, paid the money, did the insurance, this, that, and the other, and it starts off all right, and there was just one disaster after another disaster. The power steering pipes go on me. There was a whole situation with a fucking timing belt, and then one time I go to try and parallel park it. I think that's what it's called, where you sort of reverse into a space, right? And there's like this Jurassic Park fucking Jeep. And I'm trying to get past it, but the mirrors are aligned wrong. And it's got like this big rusted pipe along it, like a bumper.
Yeah.
And I fucking scratched the car on it. I could hear that.
Did it go?
Mate. You son of a bitches, you done
it. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's cool, man. The sound that made of my car scratching against that pipe.
Whose car was off yours?
It was off. Mine was the one that was getting fucking scratched. and this car was just fucking cursed, mate. And even when I first started dating Rachel, she was just like, "What the fuck are you driving?" That's my Mazda.
I'm surprised you still with fucking that car, man. Jesus.
I'm not. I know. Well, she stuck around, and then I eventually.
That's how you know you gotta keep her, mate. If she's sticking with you and you got a fucking convertible, mate.
I know. She hated getting in that car. I never did long journeys in that car.
Mate, if you pulled up to me in that car, I would have kicked your ass. So I get to 6 in the morning and I'm like, if I go sleep now, fuck that. I have to do an all-nighter. So I did the all-nighter. And then, like, obviously the lingerer comes round. Fucking won't mention his name. Like,
name.
We don't need any more curses on this podcast. Do you know what I mean? So I'll just call him the lingerer. Lingerer, man. Fucking lingerer. Anyway. So, yeah.
Why are you talking that?
Why are you baking a cake for it? It's for my cat. I don't see a cat running around here, man. He's dead. Anyway, yeah, the lingerer comes round. So, and then 2 hours later, I'm sitting with the lingerer for a bit, smoking. Bear in mind, I've done the all-nighter. Then you come round normally about 5, 6. I can't remember what time anyway. No one cares. So yeah, you come round and you and Linger are speaking. And I'm sitting, I remember I had that big fucking comfy ass like PC chair. It was made of leather and it was just fucking, the feet could go up and everything. I was just sitting on that. I can't remember what yous were playing. Either one of yous were playing Fallout and watching the other and just chatting, or I don't know what yous were playing. And I was sitting there just watching the telly. And then, but your voices were just like murmurs. Really decipher what you were saying, and then I just like felt like I was above you, watching down, fucking listening to you talk, and I just like a proper out of body experience. That's the one time I've been that high, but I think the all-nighter must have contributed to that.
Here's a weird story for you. It's going to sound really hairy-fairy, but it's relevant to what you're saying. So, on New Year's Eve just gone, I got quite drunk and I got stoned while I was with Rachel, and it wasn't even like an out of body experience. It's like I transcended through time, because I moved here when I was 16 years of age, and the year before that, when I was in my last year of school, I came here to visit my uncle and celebrate the new year. And I remember sitting on his couch on the balcony that overlooked Portland, and I shit my pants because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to finish school and I'm going to come to what? No job, no education. What the fuck am I going to be doing? I shit myself. 15 years of age. And then
when I finished school, I was the same. I finished school and I sat down, like once it was proper to finish, we got our grades and all that, and I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? It just hit me all at once. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like that feeling, yeah.
Well, I got it 6 months before we'd finished school. Yeah. Because I knew I was moving to this town. And so that's when I said to my mum, I want to continue my education, and that's when I ended up doing media studies, and that sort of resolved that issue. And then I did a year of media, did a year of sports, and then so I'm doing my sports now, and I'm 17 years of age. I sit back in that garden again, but I didn't smoke weed back then. But I'm pretty convinced that because they're all smoking weed in that house, that I got a contact high.
You do, man. If you don't really smoke,
especially if you don't smoke, yeah, exactly.
And it's in the atmosphere, you do. Because I remember my mum's boyfriend used to smoke, and I'd get a little buzzy feeling, like a little buzz, and I would be 13, 14, and like I didn't know what it was, but I felt something, you know, like. But I'd never be like, oh, mummy, I'm high.
Well, I think that the contact high was related to these epiphanies I'd have on that balcony. So 17 years of age now, 2 years later from that moment, New Year's Eve, right? So it was 2 years to the day. I'm sat there, I'm like, cool, man, I'm doing all right. I'm at college, I'm in Weymouth, I'm settled, everything's all good. And I just felt it was a real happy moment. And I remember like going home and going on the old fucking MSN Messenger and talking to you about writing. That's when you and I realised we were both into writing. And but anyway, so going back to the new year just gone, 29 years of age, just published my first book. I get really stoned, I get really drunk, and I'm laying back on Rachel's couch, and I'm just fucking transcending in my brain. It was just so lucid, like my imagination was just on another level. And it just felt like time traveling, where I felt like I went back to my 17-year-old self and just said, you fucking did it, man. You did it. It's all good. Enjoy yourself. It was like I was saying to myself, enjoy yourself. Mm-hmm. And I was given such good vibes. It was almost like it came about. I know it sounds like I'm just fucking talking hairy-fairy, but it was just the emotion of it was nice.
Hairy-fairy. That's our new fucking word, isn't it? Hairy-fairy for anything that sounds like that. Ridiculous.
It sounds really fucking hairy-fairy, but regardless, it was just such a nice experience. I just opened my eyes I was like, Rachel, I just fucking time traveled, and she's fucking drunk and stoned as well. She's like, cool, tell me all about it.
Sucking her titties.
Sucking her titties.
Oh.
I wasn't sucking her titties. We're just quoting.
Yeah, it's pineapple.
If Rachel makes it this far, she's like, what do you mean?
We just said that for dramatic effect.
Why are you telling people you're sucking on my titties?
Because you remember we used to fucking guess what their favourite movie would be.
Yeah.
What's the most recent thing you've watched that has fucking just entered your brain and won't leave?
Well, it has to be
movie, television.
It has to be Speed, because
Speed.
I mean it's kind of about my mind now, but for when I was watching it and the day after, it just stuck with me as wow, what
in what way?
From a screenwriting perspective,
Right. Okay.
In terms of its obstacles. And
the way it's paced and it keeps going.
The
and
pacing
going.
of it's perfect. You know, it's trashy.
And even the end, man, when they're fighting on the train, that's still dope as fuck as well. That's a sick.
Dennis Hopper's the bad guy, and he just pulls his head up, and it gets hit by
Bink.
sight, decapitated, and Keanu Reeves is like,
fucking...
"Yeah, well, I'm taller."
yeah. Do you know what else is a good cheesy 90s film? Air Force One, with Harrison Ford.
Right. Okay.
I used to, whenever I'd go around my aunties, my boring aunties. No offense, I love it to bits, but like you'd go. Whenever my mum would be like, right, like at weekends and that, she'd be like, right, staying at Auntie Helen's this week. I'll be like, in my brain, I'm like, oh, fuck! Not fucking Auntie Helen's. Fucking boring ass, fucking, just boring, you know, for a kid.
Yeah.
And they'd always put I'd always beg them to put Air Force One on. It'd be the highlight. I just fucking loved that film for some reason. I haven't watched it recently. It might not age well, but anyway, Speed, yeah, fucking... I get it, man. I do get it, actually. I need to watch it, but Speed always, over time, has always stuck with me in my brain, like, as a good film.
Like I said, I just see it from a writing perspective. I'm like, this is...
Like, I can admit there is bad, like, there is bad bits.
That bus doing the gap, that's dumb.
Yeah, there is stupid, but Speed is a good film.
Yeah.
It is a fucking great film.
But there are some dumb moments in it where I'm just like, oh, that just destroys any credibility that this piece of shit action movie had going for it.
But if you think about it, Terminator 2 has some fucking stupid moments in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these great films have at least one fucking stupid moment in it.
Phase 3 Marvel movies, you could always hear the unheard laugh track in it.
Yeah. You know when there's supposed to be a fucking...
You know,
every time Groot says Groot, you think, oh, well, I bet kids are laughing now.
Yeah, and there's almost like there's a pause.
Yeah.
Like,
I noticed it a lot in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Because it is such a...
There's like 30...
non-stop, like, Thanos is trying to get the stones. So whenever it is all the characters together, it's lighthearted. Like, that's when you notice it the most. And especially... Endgame's not so bad, but at the beginning and Endgame, especially when they visit 4 for the first time, there's a lot of unnecessary, like... I'll admit though, the Xbox Live bit is funny.
Yeah.
When he's fucking that is funny.
Yeah.
But mine is Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Fucking great film.
Yeah,
man.
I watched that recently. I can understand it's such a good film.
Like I didn't think, I know those 90s Spider-Man cartoons, they're great, but I didn't think a fucking CGI / cartoon, what would you call that animation style?
I don't know, it's something else, isn't it? Because
you at times you can really tell it's cartoony, but then at times it looks so fucking good. Like especially the beginning.
Yeah, it's got so much to it, that so many layers to it. That even when I
wouldn't
saw
know
the
how
trailer,
to describe the art style,
like
but the
kinetic, interactive. I don't know what you'd call that. There's a word for it, and we'll find out what that is.
But it just, I think they got. I don't know who writ it, but it's just.
It's really good.
It's written so good, especially when they're introducing Peter Parker and that at the start. He's like, "All right, I'll do this quickly," and he's just running through how he's Spider-Man. Especially when he comes to like the Spidey 3 scene, and he's like, "And I did this. I don't know why I did this, but I did it." And he just, but it's not the Peter. It's not like, oh mate, it's just so good.
Yeah.
And especially when Miles Morales is when he becomes fully Spider-Man, it's good. But like when Peter's training him, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the fucking best Spider-Man shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I can't explain why. I think it's because he's frustrated into the shit. You know, Miles Morales he's frustrated into the shit. With like most Spider-Man films, it is kind of like a somber fucking beginning. He gets bit, then it's a bit like, and then it starts going. Pfft.
Yeah.
With this, like, You get the start, or you get like the fucking 10, 20 minutes of Miles Morales, and then he gets bit with his uncle. Mate, that twist as well is good, isn't it? His uncle, forget his name.
yeah,
he's at him. That hit me actually. I was like, fucking. Didn't see that coming. And that Atom character as well. Imagine him in live action. That's fucking creepy when he's running through the subway like.
So I'm
So
really
alright,
high.
man, we can wrap up episode 92 now if you want.
92.
I'm joking. 47.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, like and subscribe. That camera, Shibby. That camera, Yoda. Like and subscribe.
Follow the Instagram. Subscribe to the channel. Peace.